What's going on today, guys? So, Baby Driver, Edgar Wright's newest film, is hitting theaters later on this week. I am so pumped to see it. And of course, in preparation for it, I promised you guys I'd be talking about his first 3 films, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and Scott Pilgrim in preparation for it. So today we're going to be talking about his second film, Hot Fuzz, which premiered in 2007 and once again stars Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Now before I continue, I must say that this review will contain heavy spoilers to not only the plot and the characters, so if you have not seen Hot Fuzz, please watch it. You don't need to hear me gasp and just be like, oh my god. Please watch the film, you need to, and come back to this review. In this movie, Simon Pegg plays Police Constable Nicholas Angel, who is the definition of an exceptional officer. His arrest record is 400% higher than any other officer, and at the beginning of the film, we learn every single thing we need to know about this person. He's extremely resourceful, he is perfect at his job, and he doesn't really have time for anyone else. That being said though, he's making all the officers in his division look bad. Because of this, they actually do rank him the honor of becoming a sergeant. However, the only way he can become one is to be relocated to a small town called Sanford. We discovered that Sanford is a very small, quaint little town. It's the kind of town that you believe is well off the map. That being said though, they've won the Best Village Award for multiple years, and they're going up for that again this year. Once he gets there, he meets all the other officers in his division, including the chief, played by Jim Broadbent, his son, Daniel Butterman, who is of course Nick Frost's character, as well as a few detectives and police officers who are very incompetent at their jobs because nothing really goes on in Sanford. But of course, in Angel's mind, there's always something going on. His suspicions lead him onto a cold trail as a murder conspiracy begins. If you guys watched my Shaun of the Dead review, you guys know I loved that film. I thought it was a fantastic combination of both horror and comedy, and the movie just works so well as a whole. Now this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I like Hot Fuzz even more. I truly think it's a better film in a lot of aspects. You can tell Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg had a lot of free reign to do whatever they wanted in this film, and Edgar Wright is a huge fan of action films. But what I really appreciate specifically is just how original of a film Edgar Wright makes, despite all of the major action movie cliches present. One thing that definitely stands out are Wright's scene transitions. Now, we definitely incorporated this technique in Shaun of the Dead, but I think his scene transitions in this movie are even better.
Power of greyskull. Point Break or Bad Boys 2?
Which one do you think I prefer?
No, I mean, which one do you want to watch first?
You are pulling my leg.
Now, if I showed you every scene transition in this movie, we'd be here for the next 2 hours. So, to condense this review, there are 2 specific moments that I want to talk to you guys about, and here they are.
That was brilliant.
These are 2 clips that are put together based on sound. It's so perfect, but at the same time it's so different than any other film I think I've ever seen. I can't recall a movie where I was so transfixed on just sound. Something else Wright does very well is the usage of Easter eggs or little hints that you really can only spot during repeat viewings. I think the most blunt use of it is when Nicholas enters the Swan Hotel, and of course the Swan becomes something of an important figure later on, but I love the part where he comes into the hotel and he talks to the old lady, and the words that they use for the crossword puzzle are the words that they use towards the ending of the film.
Fascist.
I beg your pardon.
System of government.
Hag.
I beg your pardon.
Fascist!
Hag.
Now there's one shot that you need to actually freeze frame in order to see it correctly. It's the scene in the supermarket where Danny's looking through the DVDs, and once he notices that Angel's chasing someone, he tosses a DVD, but if you look very closely to the DVD on the right, it's actually the same exact poster for Shaun of the Dead, except for the fact that it now reads, Zombies Party. It's one of those blink and you'll miss it scenes, but I absolutely love it. And of course, during this chase scene, we get this moment.
What's the matter, Danny? You never taken a shortcut before?
I love the fact that Wright makes every scene something of a visual treat, because there's something in every scene, whether it's dialogue or whether it's an object, that's used or referenced later on in the film. There's so many of them. Now let's talk about the cast. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost once again are perfect in this movie. I personally love the fact that they're best friends in real life, because it just adds to their chemistry whenever they're in a movie together. What I loved about their relationship in Hot Fuzz was not just how warm it felt, but it was them really coming together because they didn't know each other. In Shaun of the Dead, they've been best friends since grammar school, and it's almost the exact same thing with The World's End. They were friends from the beginning. In Hot Fuzz, it's all about Angel meeting Danny and them trying to formulate a friendship together, despite the fact that Nicholas Angel is this perfect cop who's always really alone, and Danny is more of this witless, young, irresponsible kind of cop. But to me, you really got to see their friendship blossom in a way that Shaun of the Dead and The World's End just didn't have. I've always liked Jim Broadbent. He's had some really great performances. I really enjoyed him in this movie as the Chief. And when I first saw Hot Fuzz, I had no idea that he was going to be the villain. That was such a good twist, and we're going to talk about the twist soon. But I really love, again, the subtle dialogue that his character has that comes up later on in the film. I like the other officers, but I particularly loved the detectives. Now, if you look real closely at Sergeant Wainwright, you'll notice that the actor portraying him is the same actor who played Steven in The World's End. I thought that was really cool. I didn't notice it before. And lastly, let's talk about Timothy Dalton, who I firmly believe should have gotten an Oscar nomination for this role. Every scene with this character was just dripping evil, whether it was the blunt or subtle dialogue, or even down to the way that he introduces himself. Also, on a side note, I do enjoy the fact that he wears a suit in most of those scenes, because it definitely gave me some James Bond vibes. Even Simon Pegg loved that, and he said in an interview that he loved shooting that final scene because he felt like he was fighting James Bond. I think out of the Cornetto trilogy, this is the film that has the least amount of layers in terms of genres or the way you can watch the film, because to me, Hot Fuzz really is an action comedy at heart, but also has a bit of a horror genre mixed in with all the Grim Reaper scenes, where it feels like a brief slasher film. The movie's not afraid to get bloody, especially with the brutal murder of Tim Messenger. I really appreciate the fact that Wright was willing to have the guts to incorporate that into this movie, because if a different director did it, I feel it would have been very awkward. It would have been totally inconsistent. But I think the fact that you always feel this dark presence in the town, despite the fact that it always feels very lighthearted, you always feel that there's something going on, particularly with the line that Nicholas Angel repeatedly says. There's always something going on. I paused the movie about halfway through and I said to myself, this is a really good story. I actually completely forgot just how well written this film was. The movie sets itself up as an action comedy, and therefore has a lot of the tropes in action films. Fast-paced action, overhead shots, the rotating camera that Michael Bay just loves to use for some reason. But I was very impressed with the way the film built itself through many exposition scenes, and we come to the big twist of the movie where we discover that the reasons why people were killed were really almost for no reason or for childish purposes. Now you can definitely look at this scene and say it's an exposition scene, and you'd be right. But to me it works because of Wright's excellent dialogue throughout the whole film, and the fact that a lot of it foreshadows and comes into play during this scene. I love the part where Frank comes out and reveals that he's the villain of the film. It makes a lot of sense because his reasoning is justifiable. So of course the town all believes Nicholas is dead, but of course he comes back with those sunglasses and loads up, and we get a massive extravaganza of a final battle. It's violent, it's bloody, it's just everything that an action film lover wants to see. As I've already said before, I watched Hot Fuzz for the first time with critical eyes. And while I was watching these scenes, I realized there's a lot of that quick cut editing, high frame rate stuff. And if you guys have watched any of my reviews of action films for the past 2 years, you know that I hate that to my core, because it does two things in my mind. One is it confuses the hell out of your audience, and two, which I think is even worse, is that it tries to mask or cover the fact that the actors simply can't perform the stunts shown on the page. I think out of all the action scenes in the film, because they're all shot that way, my least favorite one is where he's chasing the Grim Reaper after it kills Leslie Tiller. I think there were way too many cuts, and it was the only scene where my eyes actually began to sting because there are so many different angles and shots. However, in addition to the quick cut editing, high frame rate action, there's also a specific editing style where they overexpose the lighting. This editing technique was used previously when Nicholas would try to file all the paperwork. However, it is used for a brief portion of the final battle, and for me it was a bit out of place, but that's really my only problem with the final battle. But with the action scenes, you can tell he's trying to parody a lot of Michael Bay films, because when it comes to Bay shooting action scenes involving human characters, he always shakes at the camera, and it's always this weird quick cut style that just doesn't really fit. So I can understand why he was trying to shoot the action scenes the way he did. It's just that middle one, for me, that really is my only problem. It's really my only problem with the whole film. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the sea mine. Oh my god, that entire scene is so good. I always laugh my ass off. And I love the fact that it's used at the end of the movie, because that really is the only weapon that they didn't use from that arsenal.
Oh, God, no.
In the end, guys, I love Hot Fuzz. It's a movie I've seen at least 15 times. It's got great acting, great direction, great writing. Guys, I love Hot Fuzz, and if you haven't guessed, I'm going to give this film an A+. So guys, what did you think about the film Hot Fuzz? I'd love to hear your comments, so send them in that comment section below. And guys, thank you so much as always for watching my reviews. Stay tuned for my last review, which is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. That review should be up on Wednesday. And then Baby Driver. I cannot wait to see it. I will be watching it Thursday night. Hopefully have my review up for you guys either Friday night or Saturday morning. Guys, you are the best. Thank you so much as always for watching, and stay tuned. The greater good.
Shut it!